Hello friends, I'm Colonel Failure, and this is the Colonel Reduced for September 2019. Hello gang! Well, as I'm sure you're aware, I've just celebrated my 5th birthday, and it's marvellous. There you go, that's the end of the show. I'm jacking it all in. I'm bored to tears of it. No, not even remotely. No, not slightly. I'm not going anywhere for a while. Not yet. Touch wood. Make sign of warding, and throw some salt over my shoulder there as well. No, 5 years. Yeah, good. Right. Excellent. Now, here's the thing: is that up until recently, when I was, I routinely kind of check in on other channels. So if I see a channel that's performing quite strongly, or I kind of go, oh, how have they got to where they are now? How well are they going then? I'll first hit their about page and see where they started, and I'll kind of go like 2012. Oh, okay, fine, 2012. Yeah, they had a head start over me. That's fine. That's a valuable excuse for why they're so much larger than I am. Is that they started at a much easier time than I did. Good excuse right there. But of late, that excuse has just started to evaporate. I see so many channels now where I think, oh, they're pretty big, they're pretty sizable. What have they got going on? And invariably, it's like they started 2 years after you did, and it kind of go, okay, well, that's fine. We'll get over that. That's perfectly acceptable. But almost without exception, every one of those other channels. So hold on, shall I wrap that thought up before? Yeah. Let's wrap that thought up. And it used to be that there was a no small amount of kind of success envy. Why are they doing well when I'm still struggling to anything? And I'm so much more than they are. And I don't have it now. Don't have success envy because I know how to be successful. I know how to do it. I don't have. It's like that. It's like there's a formula, right? You do this, you do that, you do this, and bosh, results. You win the game. What I know how to do, and what I do on a routine. Well, no, what I know how to do but don't is parts 1 and 2, right? So let's say there's 3 parts to this puzzle. I'm not going to tell you what the 3 parts are because this is a kind of an ethereal kind of calculation that we're putting together. Calculation's not the word I'm after. No, I'm searching for it. Equation, maybe. I'm not sure. My brain's just kind of going, what are you talking about? Yeah, it's an ethereal calculation, right? So let's assume that for the sake of argument, there's 3 parts. I know exactly how to do part 1. I know exactly how to do part 2. Part 3 is all about selecting the right subject matter, so selecting the right game, and that's slightly more nebulous. That one is where the luck comes in, and it genuinely is luck. Being in the right place at the right time with the right game guarantees you a variable amount of success. If you right place, right time, right game guarantees you a level of success. How much success you get out of that really depends on your execution of parts 1 and 2. Well, the thing is, I know how to do parts 1 and 2, I just don't do it because it's incredibly time consuming. Parts 1 and 2 are stuff like heavy levels of editing. It's if your end product is not good enough, you scrap it. It's getting the opening 30 seconds absolutely perfectly resonant with the kind of people that you want to talk to. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that is kind of the meat and potatoes really of making a successful video is grab them right at the beginning and do not let them go. It's things like video length. All of these things are important. For example, I hearken back to my Descenders video on a very regular basis, and I think the same could probably be said of my recent cooking simulator videos, where I've come closest to actually nailing parts 1 and 2 of the equation. And in both those cases, didn't get it right, because Descenders should have been 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes shorter. And had it been 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes shorter, the YouTube algorithm would have actually recommended it more, because the people who watched 13 minutes of the video would have at that point then watched like 90% of that video, rather than the people who watched 13 minutes of that video having watched 60% of that video. It's a massive difference. If YouTube believes, yeah, they're watching all of this, then that's perfect. If they believe, however, no, they're bailing out midway through on average, doesn't do you any favours. It's why you see so many videos that are 12 to kind of 15 minutes in length. And my problem in editing down that stuff comes from, oh, that's quite a nice line, I'll keep it in. Or, this is something that Stegs and I used to do. So when Stegs would, when we both edited the same footage, so he would capture from his side, I'd capture from my side, his edited footage would end up being way shorter than mine. Better? No, that's a matter of taste. But I'd always say, well, look, this 30-second period I've got here is not funny. There aren't any laughs in there, but it builds to the point that it delivers on it continues to tell the story of the mission, and it delivers on the punchline that comes up at that point. It goes, yeah, but I get that over in like 5 seconds and then, deliver the punchline. So he'd end up with way shorter videos than I would, and I was hard pressed to say, well, actually, which one's funnier, because I'm too close to the subject matter by that point. But shorter videos give you a greater chance at hitting a very high view percentage, a percentage of that video watched, which then reflects out algorithmically. So to kind of tail this back into the central thrust there, which is, envy of channels that are doing well, almost without exception, channels that do well have done so out of 1, 2, 3, 5 single videos. And rarely are they part of a series. Occasionally they are, if it's a series of, here are the new features in XYZ, or any number of different games, or it's just like, they're part ones in a series, or standalones is just as common. But without exception, it's big hitting single videos, one of them. It doesn't come from the 50th part of their epic series. No, it always comes from the part one, or a standalone video. And the reason that drives so much success is because if you land something that performs at 500,000 views, 250,000 views, 500,000 views plus, the amount of juice that gives your whole channel is remarkable. Every time you have a successful period, where you are performing over the odds, right? So let's say you're along here. I'm going to use, I've got like the magic 9 blocks on my camera, so I'll use the lines on there. So let's say you're performing, there we go. Let's say you're performing down there normally, and you hit a spike that sends you up here, right? And this is views, right? Or view minutes. Either is good. And you hit a spike that sends you up there. Well, it goes down slowly. It doesn't just stick there for a little while. And then when it comes down, your new baseline is up here. It propels the whole thing upwards, because success generates success on the tube there. So once you manage to convince people to watch a thing, and you get a certain level of engagement with that, YouTube then reflects that by going like, right, we uplift everything. So if you do a monster hitter, then all of a sudden all of your videos get uplifted, everything you've done, at which point that massive catalogue of 1,700 videos, that's how many I have, get uplifted significantly. So you get more views on everything you've ever done, which is marvellous, absolutely marvellous. I'm going to look it up. I didn't want to go into stats too much this time around. I wanted to talk more in a general sense, because I've got quite a lot to cover. I've got quite a packed schedule in here today, and it's last week, right? So the stats sheet. One of the things I track in the stats sheet is how many videos received 0 views last week. Why do I track this? Because it's interesting, right? That's it. Okay, last week of 1,700 videos. Hold on. This is going to tell me exactly how many. 1,607 videos. I round to 1,700 because I'm including the 80 plus Patreon backer videos that are also in the list. 80 for you lovely people. Yeah, I include those. But of the 1,700, 348 received 0 views, which means that's what 1,350 got at least 1 view last week. 1,350. Now, 800 of those got between 1 and 10 views. We're not talking about a big number there, but when you start to get to more toward the more interesting side of things, where between 51 and 100 of my videos had 90 views last week. No, wait. 90 of my videos received between 51 and 100 views, right? And that represented 6,000 views last week. My biggest hitting category outside of the videos that did over 2,500, which is almost always just the new stuff, of which I had 9 last week. Right? You don't need to keep these numbers in your head or anything like that. Let's put it this way. I did 100,000 views on the channel last week, which is magical, which became the new target for what I wanted to achieve this year after I easily thrashed the 10,000 views a day. I wanted to hit 100,000 a week. And I've done that quite a lot. When I don't do it, these days I go... And I pretty much always understand why that is. Anyway, last week, 9 videos did over 2,500 views, and that contributed 55,000 towards the 110-ish that I did last week. So as you can see, it's about 50% came from those big hitters. But then you look down, 1,000 to 2,500, there's only 5 videos in that category. 500 to 1,000 views, there's 10. But then you get 250 to 500 views. I got 30 videos in there, and it represented 10,000 views in total. Now, 10,000 views in a week is actually that's not respectable, right? That's pretty good numbers. So yeah, it all builds up, right? Now, if I were to land a video which in its first week goes absolutely potty and delivers 100,000 views in its first week, have I ever had one of those? No, I've not. I've reached 100,000 over time. I've only had 4 that have done that. 4? Still 4? Yeah, still 4. We'll have another one. Ooh, not for a while, actually. So Autonauts Part 1 is on 98,000. Well, it was at 94,000 a year ago. So Autonauts has done its lot. Nice, cute videos, those. Those were pretty well done. And those are a very good example of being in the right place at the right time as well. Because I was the first on the internet to cover it at all. And that's purely because, I knew the devs. It went off like an absolute rocket. We've spoken about this before, but I'll lay that out there again. So, yeah, were it a bigger game... then the world is your potential oyster. Right, where am I going with this? I've never had one. That's where I'm going with this. I've never had a big hitter. I've had several that have performed quite strongly, but only within a really, really small niche. And I've never had one that has gone kablooey because it's matched up high levels of interest with right time and right place. So that's that mysterious category 3, and get that right at any point and you're off to the races. I'm still very likely to hit 50,000 plus in the subscribers this year, but it's only going to come with Transport Fever 2. And it's not going to be anywhere. Last time when Transport Fever first part came out, I think I gained 7,000 users, 7,000 subscribers off that within a month. Fabulous. I won't get that level of increase again. Firstly, because I'm already established, and secondly, because there's way more competition now. I was one of very few last time around. This time around, that everyone's going to try and beat me. I am the post that people want to try and beat. They might go after Skystorm, but Sky works in a slightly different way. And he is less likely to be volatility driven towards that kind of day one, week one push. Could happen. But, you know, he'll do well no matter when he puts his videos out. And actually, I'll do well no matter when I put my videos out as well. It's like people will be waiting for me to deliver. The fact that I will be trying to deliver on first, second, well, yeah, I mean, that's going to make a bit of a difference. But there are 20, 30, 50 channels out there that will have a swing at this one as well. So there you go. Anything could happen. Anything at all could happen. So it's interesting. But I should hit 50k this year. And that'd be great. Where I want to hit is 100k. But I'm going to need to rethink things before we get to that. Right. There you go. So that's what fills in the kind of the stats section of today's show. Does it? Am I going to talk about anything else? No, actually, I want to just do one more bit, and that is YouTube Analytics, which if you don't have a YouTube channel, it's the place where they keep the numbers. All right, now it's not where I get my numbers from. I use a plugin called vidIQ that allows me to export a CSV of exact view counts that everything has done in the past week. I then port those into my master spreadsheet and work from there. But YouTube Analytics gives you a lot of information about everything that's going on your channel, like what have people searched for to find you, how long they spend in playlists, how many times your video has been offered up to people, so how many times they see your thumbnail and your title, versus how many times they've then clicked through, and how many minutes they've watched as a result of that. And, you know, there's some really illuminating stuff in there. But one of the things they've introduced this year is what they're trying to do, or what they're trying to help with, is to help channels understand why. Why has your channel done this in the past week? And it does a little pithy sentence at the top of the thing that is usually not that helpful. And mine this week says, your channel grew more slowly than usual in the past 28 days. You gained 927 subscribers. Very happy with that. Fewer than the 1,000 to 1,500 you typically gain in a month. Well, that's based on the last 3 months. It's a really interesting thing is that both YouTube and Social Blade, which is a kind of an external channel tracking website, they both make their forecasts and expectations based on previous recent performance, rather than looking back for an overall trend. Now, as you probably know, for the last couple of months, I've been performing quite strongly. I didn't think it would hold up. What do you know? It hasn't. It hasn't held up. And I went like, yeah, I know that. I mean, you haven't told me anything interesting in saying you gained fewer subscribers this month. I went, yeah, all right, I know. And so I clicked view more, because you always do. And I went, goes into detail. Fewer viewers chose to subscribe. I went, oh, tell me more. It goes, although you reached a typical amount of non-subscribed viewers, I'm quoting, a typical amount of non-subscribed viewers this month, they were 29% less likely to subscribe than usual. A third? Oh, okay, it's just below a third, but even then, a third. I convinced a third less people than usual to subscribe. It's, you know, I reached the same kind of numbers that I do in terms of views and in terms of the split between my existing audience and the audience I have yet to convince to come my direction. And yet a third fewer chose to subscribe. So I look back over the month and kind of go like, well, what did I do differently? Quite a bit, as it turns out. And I'm going to come to that at the end of the video. Yeah, why? I could do it now. No, because I want to... There's a reason, all right? And we'll in a minute, okay? Right, look, I'm 20 minutes into my camera, so that means I've got to restart that. And then the next bit. Okay, so as part of the 5-year fiesta that is occurring, I invited members of Officers Club to submit their questions in an AMA kind of a style for this very video. I'm going to answer those questions now because there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. Perfect. And they're all pretty good. I'm going to answer them in order, despite the fact it might zigzag around the place a little bit. So if you wanted more questions than that, then blame the flipping people in Flipping Officers Club for not digging deep, diving down, and what have you. So Neil asks, long-time supporter of the channel, Neil, asks, what is your favourite moment looking back since you started in 2015, 2014, or what is the things that made you realise you truly wanted to make this run permanent? Don't know. Actually, I don't really have a favourite moment. What are favourite moments? I tell you what, it's the surprises. The surprises are the bits where it's really delightful, and the surprises are all because you spend a lot of time doubting your own validity, right? You've got imposter syndrome going on, and if you're not familiar with imposter syndrome, it's where you think, yep, I'm just a regular dude. I'm nothing special, and I don't deserve any of this. Oh crikey, I'm faking everything. It's all horrible. I'm not legitimate at all. It's where you kind of you completely disregard any potential merit you do have, and therefore just feel like a fraud and a bit of a sham. And I'm a well-balanced individual with pretty strong ego, and therefore I walk a very fine line. And herself keeps track of this, and she'll caution me anytime I stray over the line into, well, obviously I'm doing well. But I don't. That's the thing, is that I stay on the line. I kind of go like, no, what's going on is good. And I think it's because I've got a grounded expectation of how big I could potentially get. I always said that, maybe there was somewhere between 100 and 250,000 kind of worldwide subscribers that I could ever reach, simply because not that many people are going to get my shtick, get my approach to things, and while I've got a couple of kind of natural advantages in the sense of, I've got this low growly voice kind of thing, and I'm reasonably well spoken still, and that resonates with an audience on a kind of an audible level. I've also got verbal tics all over the place, which drives people away. So there is some undermining that goes on there. But also my taste is quite niche, and my humour is quite sardonic. It's quite laid back. It's you've got to listen to the language to really get the most out of it, because it's not going to be the spiciest of gameplay. Now, some of the most, I'm not going to say interesting, but I think some of my best commentary comes out of the kind of videos that I've done in the last week, where it's just not gone well. Transport fever, I've been stuck trying to do a flipping easy bit, and just making a pig's ear of it for quite some time. But I think that's when I'm at my most communicative, is when things are not necessarily going brilliantly. I think lucky turns of phrases will often appear at moments of high excitement, but greater levels of just kind of the pop culture references and general mishmashing, combinational, self-deprecating nonsense tend to come up when I'm doing something that is mundane. Might be wrong, but this comes down to points 1 and 2 again, which is, edit down to the good stuff, Chief. Just skip past the stuff that people find boring. Some people will sit through it, and I am significant other approved because I put them to sleep. Because rarely do I raise my voice above a low murmur. So yeah, favourite moments are the ones that are truly surprising. The first time I streamed was, I had no idea what to expect, but the number of viewers that I got was incredible. I think I hit 600 on my very first stream, kind of concurrent viewers. Right place, right time. And with an established audience, this was the first time I'd ever be streaming, and I had an established audience ready to turn up and view it. So just got lucky. Making a mess of it on the stream, the funky truck stop. As much as I was very embarrassed by that, the response from the people who were there at the time was just wonderful. And it is all audience-based stuff. Either the sheer volume of people who come in. What I absolutely love is doing the hello section at the start of a live stream. Just love doing it because I get a feel for the time delay, first off. And then it just comes in as a wave of people just going like, hello, evening, good evening. And I'm kind of go, all right, how's it going? I find that level of stupidity to be just marvellous. And ultimately very, very rewarding. Is there a favourite moment? One of my favourite authors was it was working on a book. I mentioned this before, but for those of you who didn't hear that or have forgotten it because it wasn't that interesting, Ben Aronovich, who writes the Rivers of London series, which is about a police officer who discovers that magic is actually real and that he's actually got some magic abilities. So he ends up in the official but never spoken about magic unit of the Metropolitan Police. It's very good. It's quite funny. So he's written 6, 7 of those. But he goes like, I was looking forward on Twitter. He goes, I was looking forward to playing some Transport Fever this evening, but my computer's broken. Now, herself was already following him, and she goes, you should tweet him immediately. So I said, I am on it. And I said, like, well, if you can't play it, maybe you should just watch my videos instead with a link to my channel. He goes, I'm already up to date. Where's the next episode? Which I kind of go like, one of my favourite authors has been watching my series all along. Because when it comes down to it, even people who you pedestal up in some fashion, they're still just people and they still do stuff to unwind. But you never know what it is that they do. And therefore, if they are, consuming something of a really insignificant nature, such as what I do, then it's all good. That was probably one of my favourite moments. Or what are the things that made me realise that I wanted to make this permanent? Same moments, I think. It's the same kind of stuff. Actually, it's that it kept growing. I did a talk when my channel was a year old and I had 400 and change subscribers. I did a talk to developers at the Develop conference in Brighton about what I'd learned from that process and how they could work better with channels. At the time, the talk really wasn't all that. It wasn't very good. It was okay. It demonstrated quite a lot of what I'd learned, but it wasn't. It didn't hit that kind of next stage stuff. What I didn't know then was that when I'd hit 10,000 subscribers, I would be inundated with keys, just being thrown them from every angle. Excuse me. At present, I get between 2 and 4 games sent to me daily. And I immediately bounce anything that is not my channel's kind of, niche. But it's horrendous. I'll get 3 or 4 partnership offers a week, so from companies who want me to flog some bloody thing. But at the moment, I'm low end, and therefore the companies that are approaching me are. I had one last week that was one of those loot box companies where. You give them money, you open a thing, and there's a real world something inside it, and it could be a laptop or a computer, or it could be a iPhone or a whatever, right? And I went, yeah, these are a scam. I kind of go, I'm just not into that. So I'm not yet at the scale where legitimate partners are coming along. I'm still, but I am at the scale now that people go, well, this guy's got enough push to be able to hit more people. So when I did the talk, I wasn't aware of any of this kind of stuff. Ben Q out of the blue last winter offering me a monitor. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I pulled a few strings to score a graphics card to go with it. But even so, they would have said no if it was just me asking for a graphics card. The fact that I'd got a supported channel made all the difference. But I got given, not only offered, but it turned up. I got given a monitor, and it's enormous, and it's lovely. Hey, that's not bad. Would I have rather had the money? Tricky, actually. No, I think I'd rather have had the monitor. Next time, maybe I don't need another monitor. If someone else offers me a monitor, I'll probably do some kind of competition to give it away. I'm all about competitions. The competitions I did to give away just the beer mats from the Transport Fever thing, that was great. That was a lot of fun, and it generated quite a lot of the social media juice. So I'll probably do that again. Right, Neil, that's enough for your question, but I think you've got the answer. Mr. McBaldspot has come in with a double bill of questions. Where did you get the music for your channel? Did you pay for it? Royalty-free website, Composer Friend. Right, the bombastic intro comes from a site called Epidemic Sound. Epidemic Sound or Sounds? I think it's Epidemic Sound, which is a subscription site full of library music. Because a couple of other people have used it. Now, Jingles used the bombastic intro in one of his incredibly Mighty Jingles is one of the laziest YouTubers you will ever come across. I've worked with him before. He does no work whatsoever. Now, he's achieved his level of success through graft, but these days he does nothing. All of the footage is captured by other people. He just slings a bit of voiceover on it. He's a lazy flipping chancer. But that's okay. Whatever works for him. But yeah, he's used it in the past. And what was quite nice is I saw the video because someone sent the link my way, and there were half a dozen comments of like, "Oh, it's the bombastic intro." I went, "Good. I'm getting out there a little. That's nice." So yeah, if I'm ever using a big chunk of music that you don't recognise and it's it's just kind of a bit generic and a bit. Pretty much all the music I use in the background comes from Epidemic Sound, but I'll regularly remix it myself. By which I mean that I'll take the individual parts and I'll chop sections out of them and I'll loop them and I'll create kind of a seamless undertow to go with things. I always turn the game music off because that's the first thing that gets claimed. So by turning the game music off, you remove that possibility entirely. By adding your own music, you can then also add your own mood to it. So that makes a bit of a difference. What have I used in the past? I've written some stuff of my own in the past, but not a lot. You wouldn't even notice it because it's usually like 3 or 4 second bits. I used to write a lot of music. Back in my kind of late teens, early 20s. I've still got the facility to do so. I've got a decent keyboard kicking around somewhere, but it's time intensive is what it is, and it just takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And I think if I wanted to go in that direction, then maybe I would do. But right now, the one thing that I have going for me is that my taste is so very different to most channels that are out there. So the music I use in the background is very different to what you hear elsewhere. I've had a couple of people actually, and I forget who. Diedrich did me a. And I'm not even certain that's correct. Did me a couple of tracks, which was nice, and I used one of those. Who else? Steve Magnet did a remix using some of me in it. Yeah, there are bits and pieces out there, but fundamentally it was me. I did a remix of a bit of Depeche Mode, which I used for my first kind of intro and outro and intro. Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't. It was just outro, just outro. The second one, actually, the thing with the big stamp that came in, that I used to do an a cappella version of for Reduced, that I'd put together entirely. That was all me. The thing with the grey background with the original Bulldozer on, yeah, I put that together. That was me. I mean, it was just, it was a trumpet and a flipping drum beat and a few effects and what have you. But there you go. Right, yeah, there you go. That's music. Next. What was the first video game you played you became an expert at, super fan of? Fanboy of? The first. Okay, all right. It's not going to be what you expect because I can't remember the name of it. The first one I became a super expert at was on my very first computer, which was an Acorn Electron. And it came with a starter pack of 4 games, and one of those 4 games was called something baseball, and I got really good at it, really good at it, and I'd play that a lot. This would have been when I was probably 13, maybe, or maybe even younger than that, maybe 11, 12, something like that. Played a hell of a lot of that. Moving into games that you might actually have heard of, though, and you're still going to be talking ages and ages ago. I played an unholy amount of Speedball 2. I could absolutely thrash that game, and anybody who wanted to play me at it. What else? Yeah, I played loads of like Civilization and Railroad Tycoon. This is back in the Amiga days. I played tons of that as well, but I never saw the need to increase the difficulty. In fact, it took me ages. It took until the advent of the internet to really work out what it was that I wasn't doing that everybody else was in Civilization. I was struggling to get past kind of the second/third tier of difficulty. And only after that did I realise that everybody else was using their workers to improve every tile around the city. I'd never done that previously. I'd done 1 or 2 if they'd had a special resource. Yeah, it just didn't occur to me. So there you go. I'm going to go with Speedball 2 as my official answer. There, that's the one. Yeah, I'll take that. That's the business right there. Nick's Tempest asked Tempest. You said Tempest. That's fine. Yeah, so I threw myself with the with pronunciation there. Besides Transport Fever 2, what is your most anticipated game due in the next 12 months? Cyberpunk. There you go. That's the end. Because I'm a massive Cyberpunk fan. Not the role-playing game. Never played a role-playing game. But of the literary genre and movies set in that kind of setting, kind of dystopic, near future, where technology is all pervasive to the point that even the human body is no longer sacrosanct, and that we're embedded with implants and whatnot. Because I'll be the first to sign up for that stuff. As soon as I can get a heads-up display in my kind of visionary whatnot, sign me up. I'm all about that. The only problem with it is that the reality of where we're going with dystopic cyber mechanical implants and what have you is privacy. Privacy is going to be freaking huge when it comes to that stuff. If you get if you've got arthritic legs, arthritic knee, right, and you get an implant put in there, it's not going to be long before the telemetry from that implant is going to be reported back to the company that makes it. And if you're stateside, they'll be sharing that with your health company, and they'll be sharing it with your employer and all of that kind of stuff. So data is going to be actually way more valuable than even the William Gibsons of this world ever kind of conceived that it would be. So yeah, it's not It's not quite as like, yeah, I'm going to be cool and I'm going to have, this and that and eyes that, ooh, and that kind of stuff. Put those down. Instead you're going to have big corporations all over your business. As such, I recommend everybody reads the book Jennifer Government, which is very, very, very funny. Set in a dystopic future after the corporations have basically taken over. So Australian author. I'm going to say it's Max Brooks. I think it's Max Brooks. It might be Max someone else. I get him confused with the guy who did World War Z. But it's not the same guy. Go read it. The audiobook isn't brilliant. I recommend the paper thing with the words or an ebook equivalent. It trots along at a lovely rate, but that's the future that we've got coming. It's quite funny. Okay, right, good. Next question. Yeah, Cyberpunk. That's the game I'm looking forward to. And I don't play role-playing games. I find them far, far too restrictive because I like to be able to pursue my own agenda to achieve a result. And role-playing games are, just out of practicality, they're always constrained in terms of the number of different things you can do. Ho-hum, but I just want to wander around the place, and, I will play a role-playing game once in a while. And herself banged on about The Witcher 3 for so long. She still does it. If I trigger her, she'll start talking about The Witcher 3 again, because it is, in her mind, and she's got every bit as much gaming experience as I have, slightly different genres, but slightly the same level of experience. She says it is the best game that has ever been made. Well, golly. I've got no ability to talk with such levels of confidence about any game, but no, she's utterly convinced of it. So there you go. So yeah, chances are we'll both be playing Cyberpunk at the same time. She'll be doing it downstairs, I'll be doing it up here, and we'll be comparing notes afterwards, because she's the worst stealthy player ever. Go loud is her default position. She always tries to play stealthy and then screws it up. Whereas, I'll sit for 10 minutes just being stealthy and just kind of go, no, I'm being stealthy. Right, good. I've got 2.5 minutes before I need to restart the camera again, so I'm going to do Kick Yes's question, which is, what toppings do I like on a pizza? Cheese, tomato, ovs. The base is all important. I like a slightly fluffier base. Your thin, crusty pizza, no. Not interested. I don't want cheese and tomato on a flatbread. Nah. Give me a proper pizza base that is not proper. It's not what they serve in Italy. American style, fluffy, doughy, evil pizza. On the top of it, meat, vegetables. Right? You've got to have both. Can't do one without the other. But I'm talking about the sexy vegetables. The sexy fun time vegetables that you don't mind eating. Rather than the ones you do mind eating, right? So stuff like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, broad beans. No, they're the unsexy vegetables, right? You got to eat them, but you don't want them anywhere near your pizza. No, I'm talking about the good time stuff. Your mushrooms and your onions, and bell peppers. Then all manner of chili pepper from you throw chili at me, I'll eat it. All of that. A bit of sweet corn occasionally, but just steady on. What would I go for? Barbecue, saucy kind of, I don't know, chicken. Pepperoni can be a little bit too greasy, but a bit too oily. So I'll take a ham bacon type of deal as an alternative. People have started making artificial meatballs and smearing that all over the top of pizzas. It's not great. It's just no. It's got to have proper meat on there. There you go. That's as thorough an answer as you're going to get. Probably I could waffle it for longer, but I won't. Good. All right, into the third section. Let's keep things punchy. Right, June asks that in the 5 years since you began to be on YouTube, how many times have I moved to a new home? 4 times. This was correctly spotted in the comments. But yeah, I've moved 4 times in the 5 years that I've been doing this. Right, more detail may be required. Where was I originally? Started in South Essex. Yes, started in South Essex. And herself was working. Where was she at the time? Oh, she was working in Cambridge at the time, so wanted somewhere that was equidistant between where her kids live and where she was working. We've both got families from previous marriages, and due to both she and I being the career chasers that we've been, it made more sense for the kids to live with their respective other parent, but we'd then see them every weekend. So we'd both set off on a Friday night, go retrieve a horde of children, and then bring them to the house for the weekend where we'd all lark about, and then on a Sunday evening we'd run them back again. And we did that for the best part of many years, actually. The best part of 8, I suppose. We've been together for ages now. But yeah, it worked very well. Very amicable, works out quite nicely. It means that basically every weekend with the kids was just larking about, which was terrifically good fun. Mine are now too old for that kind of business. They're all off, all over. They've all graduated university and are off kind of being alive. So that doesn't happen for me anymore, but hers are now quite young. So we moved from South Essex when she got a new gig. We moved to Kent. Initially, we moved into a swanky apartment kind of deal. Not that swanky actually, but a decent apartment in a good location. And it is an apartment rather than a flat. You can't call it a flat because it was an apartment. And then that was too small, but that was only ever supposed to be a temporary arrangement. So we then stayed in Kent and moved to the previous place that I was in before here. And now we are back in Essex again, in the town that her ex and the kids are in. So that it's just made, because the march of time marches forward, and she kind of goes like, I want to get as much time with the kids while they're still knocking around home. And I think it was mine moving out that she, moving on, gave her the sense of like, yeah, I don't want to miss any more of this. Perfectly reasonable. So, we still both commute down Kentwood on a regular basis. Her more than me because she's full time. Yeah, there we go. So that's why we keep moving. Historically, we've been all over the place. For 3 years, she was in Rugby, I was in Liverpool. We both lived in Surrey for a bit. Where else? Oxfordshire, we were there for a while. You follow the work. When you're in a volatile industry, such as gaming, and you shift company because the opportunity looks good, and you do that every couple of years, then you go where the work is, because you don't have a choice in the matter. So do I like moving house? No, not particularly. I was particularly disappointed to be leaving the house that we were in before, because I just started to get it into the kind of shape where everything was ticking along smoothly. But you don't get to choose this stuff. Well, you do get to choose this stuff. All right, that's valid. You can't ever guarantee you're going to have it the way you want it. There you go. That's how that rolls. Yeah, and bizarrely, I'm less cheerful having my own bunker to myself than I was using the shared rooms that I've always used in the past. Odd and yet true. But there it is. I mean, it's still kind of cool. I mean, it's all decorated exactly as I want it now. So that's all tremendous. There you go. So we moved a lot, but I don't see that ending. We'll probably stay here for a few years, actually, particularly if I manage to get to the point where I can go, I am now officially full-time looking out for my own projects rather than working for anybody else. Oh, that would be a delight. But still a little way to go on that front. Right, next question. Jerome, aka the Dutch Retro Guy, asks, I've always wondered how you manage to keep doing so many videos a week, as I struggle and have ultimately failed. to find the inspiration to do so myself. So I'd like to ask, how do you keep from burning out? And secondly, how do you manage to keep things fresh? Don't know. Yeah, because for the longest time, and it's only in the past 4 months that I've split my time in terms of working days of the week. So I work full time 3 days a week, and well, that's not full time. I work part time 3 days a week. I work full day hours 3 days a week, and then 2 days are now dedicated towards the pursuit of other things, such as this video malarkey. And that was partly because actually I didn't have anything else lined up. I didn't have another job waiting. I didn't have anything that I wanted to pursue. I get headhunted routinely for jobs that I was doing 10 years ago. And I say like, well, this is my asking price. And they kind of go, oh, ha, ah, oh, and they run away. I kind of go like, yeah, you don't get someone with more experience than anybody else cheaply. And also, I'm a nightmare to work with because I will probably know more about how to do all of this stuff than just about everyone else I'm working with. And therefore, I find it very, very difficult to stay in my box and not work in isolation. The days of me being able to go and lone gun things, they're more or less over. The independent studio that I worked on, where I worked on a guy called Fractured Space, which sadly is no longer with us, but there are stories to tell about that one that I won't, as to why it's no longer with us, that is. Through no fault of the team I've got a lovely bunch of people, full experts, but that game was never destined to become successful. That was probably the last gig I had that was perfect for me, where I had a level of autonomy that allowed me to agenda set as much as everything else. I have become, over the years, far less useful as a team player. Which is why I'm actively pursuing not being part of a team unless I am the head of it. So there's that. But, there may come a time that it's increasingly possible that I'll have to go get some kind of work that is for somebody else in order to make ends meet. But we'll worry about that when the time comes. For the time being, it's 2 and 3. So the question, and I think I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to edit that out. There you go. Anyway, your question is, how do I manage to keep this pace up? Well, okay. Well, there's a couple of elements to that, really, and that is that I really enjoy it. That's first and foremost. If you don't enjoy it, you'll never stick with it, and it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't find some shred of enjoyment out of what you're doing, then you'll never stick with it. You will be looking for an out every opportunity you get. And so for something that is for a long time you derive your own victory from it, like YouTubing, right? So if only 10 people are watching your videos, you have to take satisfaction from 10 people watching those videos. Where I got satisfaction was the following month, 11 people were watching them. That's how you get through the initial kind of starting hump of things. But you've got to be bloody minded and stick with it. And that's because you love the process of doing it. So you like talking while you're recording stuff, or you like the editing process that comes out of the other end, and you really enjoy when someone comments on things and you can have a bit of a conversation with them. If you don't love that stuff, you won't stick with it. You won't get past the difficult bit. I'm past the hardest of it by a long way. The next, and it's stepped, right? It's not a curve of where it's an insane mountain to start with and then it gets progressively easier. No, it's steps. There are steps to reach the next stage. And what I need to do, which is why I referenced the 3-part how you make a kick-ass video at the start, is that's the next step that I've got to do. I've got to up my game. What I'm doing so far will continue to grow organically for a while yet. But if I want to escalate that growth, or or make the earnings that I get from advertising more meaningful, then I need to, I've got to improve the quality of the output that I'm delivering. Otherwise, you won't get there. Well, I won't get there. So how do you stop from burning out is enjoy it. Because the other thing is, of course, give up all other hobbies. If you're working full-time, which is why I referenced working full-time initially, if you're working full-time and trying to do video production at the same time, then you don't have time for anything else. You've got just about enough time to do work, plus this, plus family stuff. Just about enough time, and you're not going to be delivering that at maximum capability to any of them. Now, arguably, the job side of things, you need to do just enough so they don't sack you. But that's never been how I work. How do you avoid burning out? I've always, since a very young age, I've always had an overabundance of ideas and schemes and plans and notions and kind of little creative this and that and something else, to the extent that I did a university degree in creative arts, because the act of creation is something that I was always just doing anyway. And then, getting a qualification in it seemed like a sensible thing to do. And I've been lucky in that the career that I've had has allowed me to kind of flex that muscle in a slightly different way. But, you've got to genuinely care about what you're doing. And so having all of these ideas and caring about what you're doing means that I'm never short on a clue. Behind me on the whiteboard there is next week's schedule. I haven't finished writing it up yet because I've still got to do these 4. Yeah, I switched to using little magnet things. Being left-handed meant that I'd frequently kind of smear the whiteboard pen. After that won't do. So I've got these little magnetic doodahs, and I'll stick 4 other titles on here to record the videos of. It's Monday, so today is recording central. I have 2 recording central days, and that's Monday and Friday. And I'll probably do a little bit more one evening and do some editing on a Saturday or Sunday. How do I stop from burning out? Continued passion and enthusiasm. You never burn out while you've got continued passion and enthusiasm. You know when you need to take a break, and then you take a break. I had the toughest time, actually. I went on holiday. You recall maybe that I went on holiday to Rhodes earlier this year, and that's herself. What she wants to do more than anything else is explore the planet. I can think of nothing worse. I have a thoroughly good time while I'm doing it, but she describes me as being a brick on a string to get me out of the house in the first place. And it's because the world that I want to explore is in here. I've got so much of it that I want to kind of bring into reality in some fashion or another. And so I'm constantly victim of my own enthusiasm for such things. It's why I'd love to reach a stage where I can employ someone to act as a filter or a producer, or however you wish to describe it, to keep me focused and on point, while at the same time executing some of the procedural stuff that I go, that would be really useful. That's a good idea. Let's put it into action. I don't get around to it because I'm forever writing time-based checks that I do not have the resources to cash. As those of you who have been around for some time will be aware, is that I'll go, great idea that I'm going to go off and execute, and I just don't get around to it. It doesn't mean that I've gone cool on the idea. It just means that the pressures of just keeping things going mean that I can't take City Skylines. Great example. It is coming. What do I need to get it to the point where it can start is I need probably about 10 hours of prep. Yeah, probably thereabouts 10 hours of prep, because I'm doing something different with it. Very different. and it's my aim to tick all three boxes, and put a 1 million view video together. That's just a big target. But if I get it right, it'll get 1 million views. But I need 10 hours to prep for that, and meanwhile everything else is just kind of going, well, you got me to do now. Come on. So, secondly, how do you keep things fresh? Passion, enthusiasm. I will stop playing things when I have no more enthusiasm for it. Railway Empire. I'm sticking that in the shredder this week. I'm fed up of it. Soviet Workers and Resources and Republic. I mentioned this last time around. One of the reasons that I stopped playing it, I got fed up with people telling me that I was doing it completely appallingly. The level of negative comments that I was getting on that series was starting to just drag me down. I was going like, well, I do still quite enjoy the game, and stone me, it gets good views, but oh man, will you people just shut up? And you've got your active online persona to maintain, which is that I'm friendly to everyone. Well, by and large, I am friendly to everyone in reality, and therefore I thought, well, what's the best way to remain being friendly to everyone? Ditch the thing that's causing them to be unfriendly. What do you know? So I've stuck a fork in that, and I have to say, I'm not in a big hurry to bring it back again. And it's because it did start to feel like a drag. It did start to feel like, and I mean, it was one of my low effort series. A low effort series is one where I point, I shoot, I record, I edit. That's it. Rather than I plan, I test, I point, I shoot, I record, I edit. You can spot when I've been limited on time in Transport Fever, because you end up with videos like the 2 that you had last week, which just not great. Versus the ones where I've taken an extra 20-30 minutes beforehand to knock about the map properly and think about, actually, how am I going to do this? What's my tightly focused area of thing? And that's something that I've changed since I first started. Everything was what I would describe as low effort when I first started, with a few kind of outlying exceptions. And these days I try and make everything slightly more polished, slightly better presented, and that's the next step that I've got to make, is I've got to up the level of presentation once again. So that's the challenge that comes out of that. So it's a bit of a non-answer, but at the same time a bit of an answer. There, yes. There you go. Right, one more section to do, and it's going to need longer than I've got left in the camera, so let's reboot this sucker. Yeah, I know, but it's my 5-year video, right? So we're going to have a bit of an extended go, especially when people ask me questions, because I can't answer anything succinctly. Right, game selection strategy. I've written that in big block letters. So earlier this month, I was thinking, I might start a second channel. And not necessarily a games channel, right? So start a second channel and maybe do a lifestyle vlog type thing, because I quite enjoy this 2-camera stuff, but I'd like to do it in a more structured way, actually have a proper talking point, and it not just be me plus camera, and actually, go places and do stuff. I enjoyed doing it came out really badly, which is why I didn't use it, but I did a bunch of kind of vlog recording bits on my Berlin trip. All of those YouTube stories that I stuck out, I really enjoyed doing those, and the response that they got was quite favourable as well. I think the best comment I had was, these are great because, once every couple of hours a new one will pop up, and it's only going to be 30 seconds long, so you can go in and go, what's he up to now? I went, yeah, well, maybe there's something in that. So I thought, well, I could do that plus the other games that are outside my kind of standard genre spectrum. I could do that on kind of a separate channel. So I went like, okay, who do we know who's done that already? So I reached out to Biffa, who many of you will be familiar with already. And I said, you split your channel into kind of multiple parts a couple of years ago. And, what I'm seeing now is that your main channel, Biffa Plays Indie Games, is doing really strongly. The others have got a scattering of users, but nothing more than that. So what gives? Would you recommend splitting into multiple parts? And he went onto a fairly lengthy kind of diatribe of Let's Play is dead. Forget Let's Play. Get over it. Move on. It's just not working. And he made a very good point, which was that for a standalone video where you don't put any requirement on people turning up for another one, it has a much greater impact. It has a much greater level of success. Now, I've talked about this in Kernel School stuff, which is hero videos, basically. And his approach now is that everything is a hero video. Every single thing that he puts out is heroic in nature. What's a hero video? I hear you cry. Well, it is a single, standalone, one-shot, job done, move on, go back to your life, where you're not asking people to then go view 20 previous episodes or 30 that have yet to be recorded. And that's the other thing to bear in mind. Sorry, the lighting keeps changing because the sun keeps dipping behind a cloud. And that led me to thinking, Now, here's the thing. Let's take Transport Fever as an example, because I've got so many videos that I can use that to kind of study viewer behavior. Now, they get a solidly good number of views, every one of those I put out. Everyone will hit 10,000 in the first couple of weeks, 10,000 views. And I've probably mentioned this before, but let's make it clear. My success ratio is 10 to 1. So if I get one view for every 10 subscribers I currently have, that is a successful series. I won't be able to maintain that forever. You look at superly large channels, or even modestly large channels, such as Skystorm or Quill or Squirrel, or anyone who's got a 6-digit subscriber count. And you'll see that very rarely do they hit that 10 to 1 ratio. But while I'm actively pursuing growth, which will be what I'm doing until I hit 100k, I figure. And even then, I might still be going, no, I could be bigger. I can be, goals propel us forwards, right? You've got to have a goal. And if you don't have a goal, then you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. So goals propel us forwards. I'm not maniacally key. I don't want to be the biggest channel on YouTube, even if it was offered to me. Would I like the money that came with it? Yes, that would solve quite a lot of problems. Thank you very much. But no, I'm not interested in that level of attention. Being moderately well known to a core of people who share similar interests to myself, that's of great interest. But reverse. Transport Fever. And over the course of a series, its view numbers will decline. And that's completely natural. Part of the reason that happens is nobody's interested in watching part 24 if they haven't watched part 23. So what you're asking is that a new viewer coming in has consumed some stuff from beforehand. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't attract anyone from a new video I might put out that is, episode 37. No, it happens, but nowhere near as much as it happens with part 1. Part 1 absolutely pummels to death the performance of every other episode in the series. All of my standalone videos, they also perform strongly enough. So, off the back of talking to the young Biffa there, and I didn't really get much of value in terms of should I split into multiple channels. I got the very real sense that he'd go, no, don't bother. I wouldn't bother doing that. Pivot your users towards what you want to offer, rather than try to offer multiple things in multiple different ways. I still may do a B channel, but it would be extremely different and try and attract a different audience. Many of you folks will probably enjoy it, actually, but let's put that one on the big long list of things I'm going to do in the future, because that's got loads of stuff on there, and I've got no bandwidth to make that happen right now. Getting back to the point, however, I then started first thing I did is I went through all of my stats, and that's one of the useful things of having these stats to hand. And I went through every single shot video that I've done, so every one-parter, and every part one. And wouldn't you know it, every single one that I've done in the last 2 years has had enough views to justify avoiding the wood chipper. In fact, he carried on, the average view count for a single shot or part one is over 14,000 views. Now that's 3 point some odd to 1. That's not 10 to 1. That's 3 point some odd to 1, which is amazingly good. That's the kind of stuff that really rocket fuels growth. So in the last 2 weeks, I've also done a couple of experiments. You have seen them, probably. The first of which was a game called Railed. Board game, slightly puzzle-ish, looks awful. Developer sent me a key. I went, well, stuff it. Let's stick it out as a one-off, as a one and done. And hold on, let's fish up its number, because its number is distressing. Right. As of yesterday, it had done 4,600 views, which is 9 to 1. Okay, but that's nothing, right? Because Rail World, which I stuck out last week, has done 6,300 views already. Compare that to the Railway Empire, which was only on part 6, for crying out loud, which has only done 3,500. Now, my requirement for a video to make the cut, in terms of like, should I feed this into the wood chipper or not, is that it does that 10%, that magic number, in its first 7 days of existence. Well, fine. If I were to do a part 2 on Rail World, would I get another 6,000 views? Hell no. No one will come back for a second part of that. But it made me go, well, there's a ton of games featuring trains out there. I can do a one and done on all of them. Fine, let's go do that, because that will bring in the kinds of numbers I want. Now, Tolocram particularly said, no, don't kill your series. The series are all important, and maybe, you know, what I advocated when I discussed hero videos to start with was that your hero videos are the bait that drags people into your channel, and if they like the way they do things, they then convert to watching a series. And that's true, absolutely true. But you've got to pick the right series. Transport Fever's worked very well for me in that regard. But then you think about something like Train Sim World, right? Or Train Simulator. All of those, they're non-serialized. Every single one of those videos is a one and done, is a single shot video. And Train Sim World particularly is remarkable. The performance I get from that is kind of nutty. That's lucky I've got the stats up, isn't it? I've recorded 21 of them. Okay. And of those 21 have done over 5,000 views. All of them, 100%. I have not got anything else. Have I got anything else? I do have something else. Oh, it's Mashinki. Mashinki is also 100% over 5,000 views per video, but I did 8 of those. I've done 21 Train Sim Worlds. Of Train Simulator, so not World, the other one, I've done 14 of those, and 13 have done over 5,000 views. But every single one of them is a one and done. You record the route, and you kind of go, bosh, I'm off. There you go. I've got no requirement on you watching a second part. It appears that works. So yeah, I am going to pivot in that direction. Now, what does that mean for serialized play? Well, again, I come back to City Skylines. I'm hoping that will be the model that I end up following. I've got some good ideas for how I'm going to cover Transport Fever 2. It's going to be different to how I do TPF 1, but it's the same. It's going to be different but the same, but it is going to be much more geared towards a sense of this is a one and done. And someone else who's really good at this kind of stuff is Corrales. Corrales is non-serialized play. Works very, very well. Someone who's awful at it is Quill. Quill does serialization all the time, and the views he gets on those are appalling. Given the size of subscriber base that he's got, his first parters go off like a rocket, but everything else, they're just awful. He is the very definition of low effort when it comes to recording this stuff. I like him. I like Quill just fine. It's a bit boring for my taste, but that's my taste. Your taste may differ. I'm a bit boring for quite a lot of people's taste, but everybody's taste differs, so that's fine. But yeah, his videos are properly low effort. He'll record 4 or 5 hours of him playing something, then just chop it into easy bite-sized pieces and fling them up with the same thumbnail on each one. And you just kind of go, man, that is lazy. But that's someone who is not actively pursuing a growth curve. I am actively pursuing a growth curve. So Train Sim World, how many have done? 18 of the 21 have done 10,000 views. And I've got a battery light flashing. Right, there you go. I'm going to get to the point. Anyway, that's the end of this video. I'm really going to get to the point. Things are going to change, but not. It's going to be the same stuff that you like, but hopefully with a bit more polish, let's say. Anyway, thank you for your support. It is greatly appreciated, and it really does help propel me forwards to what I hope will be ever-increasing amounts of good stuff. So I'll catch up with you next month, and if you're not in Discord yet, get into Discord, because I've got an archive of every video I've done for backers in there for you. Thanks for watching. I've been Colonel Failure. Cheerio.